watching it live on the internet. NASA has a wonderful live feed going through Ustream, so you can log onto the NASA website and watch it as the rest of the world breathes a sigh of relief as it passes by.
Fantastic stuff, Glenn. Enjoy it. I hope you get a good view.
Thank you.
Glenn Nagle, the spokesman for the CSIRO NASA Space Centre in Canberra, joining us there about the imminent arrival of the asteroid known as 2012 DA14. It'll cruise past about 28,000 kilometres from Earth, far enough away to comfortably avoid an impact. Well, it's just on 9 o'clock right now, Australian Eastern Summer Time, and in Honiara it's 8 o'clock in Brisbane and Port Moresby, 7 o'clock in Delhi, 6 o'clock in Perth and Hong Kong, and 5 o'clock in Phnom Penh. Tracy Hutchison here with you.
Around Australia, this is ABC News Radio, and across Asia and the Pacific, Radio Australia.
The top stories on this Monday, the 15th of February. Tension runs high as the Olympian Oscar Pistorius fronts court on a murder charge. And fears Australian cuts to foreign aid risk ruining its regional reputation. Finance and weather details for the region later in the bulletin. First, the South African Paralympian Oscar Pistorius has broken down in court after he was formally charged with murdering his girlfriend. The 26-year-old was arrested yesterday after allegedly shooting Reva Steenkamp 4 times in the head and arm. Journalists say Pistorius' family are also in tears as they watch proceedings from the public gallery. Police have dismissed reports Pistorius shot his girlfriend because he mistook her for a burglar, and say they'll oppose any application for bail. And we'll get the latest from Pretoria throughout the program. Well, in Western Australia, authorities say a fire near Australind, south of Perth, is a possible threat to lives and homes. People in the area are being urged to leave their homes and stay and defend the properties. The Department of Fire and Emergency Services say the blaze is moving fast through bushland in a westerly direction. Fire is also burning in Bullsbrook, northeast of Perth, which is also a possible threat to lives and homes. The Australian government's revealed more details about cuts to its foreign aid budget. In December, the government announced $375 million would be redirected to cover the cost of housing asylum seekers. Afghanistan, Sub-Saharan Africa, Burma and Indonesia are among the countries to lose funding. Mark Purcell from the Australian Council for International Development says Australia risks damaging its influence in the region.
The Prime Minister went to the UN General Assembly last year as part of our Security Council bid, promising to lift Australia's aid to 0.5 of gross national income by 2015 under the slogan, Australia does what it says it will do. We now have not done what we promised. So aid is part of the relationships with countries in the region, and it's based on trust. So to the extent that countries in the region, their governments are now going to be just that much more sceptical about what the Australian government says but then does, yes, it does have an effect, because they will look to other donors that don't give their word and follow through.
Cancer support organisations are disappointed by an Australian federal court decision which has upheld a patent on hereditary breast cancer genes. The challenge to Myriad Genetics over the patent of a gene known as BRCA1 was dismissed with costs by the federal court this morning. John Stubbs from CanSpeak says the decision could lead to restrictions being imposed on research and testing.
Myriad have been very good in giving the tests freely of charge, but they are a commercial operation and might go down that path of charging patients. We want good access to treatments and treatment pathways, not only for cancer patients, but people with chronic diseases.
The Australian Medical Association is warning the nation's overburdened public hospital system is struggling to train new doctors. The AMA's latest snapshot of hospital performance shows the number of beds in Australian hospitals has remained flat despite the ageing population. AMA President Dr. Steve Hamilton says full hospitals mean the next generation of doctors is missing out.
We've got a surge of young people coming through, men and women who've trained in medicine, who we need to give them opportunity to be taught and trained. If our elective surgery numbers go down, their exposure to patients goes down. If the emergency departments are clogged up with people that can't get into hospital, they're not getting the clinical exposure.
Authorities in Queensland say it's unlikely that a case of Lyssa virus will spread. An 8-year-old boy is in a critical condition in a Brisbane hospital after contracting the deadly bat-borne disease. Chief Health Officer Jeanette Young says he was bitten or scratched by a bat in North Queensland in December, but only recently became ill.
We have, of course, spoken to all members of this child's family and provided post-exposure prophylaxis to those that have had any degree of significant contact with the child, and we've also contact traced all the health workers that had been involved in the care of this child.
The Australian government's told the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon it'll support firmer sanctions against North Korea. The rogue state this week carried out its third nuclear test. The action's been widely condemned by the United Nations Security Council and the international community. Australia's Prime Minister Bob Carr says he's made Australia's position clear during a meeting with Mr Ban today.
I spoke to Ban Ki-moon today and said Australia will support a firmer set of sanctions against North Korea. And we're hoping that can emerge from the Security Council debate in the next week.
Food safety experts from across Europe will meet in Brussels today to discuss the horse meat scandal affecting a number of countries. They'll draw up detailed plans for conducting DNA tests over coming weeks on food products labelled as beef. One French company has already been accused of knowingly selling horse meat as beef. The BBC's Matthew Price reports from Brussels.
The hitherto little-known European Union Standing Committee on the Food Chain is suddenly the focus of attention. The plans its experts come up with today could eventually have a huge impact on consumer confidence in the food being eaten in Europe, perhaps even on the very health of Europe's citizens. The group of experts from all 27 EU countries will work out how to conduct accurate random tests to determine how much of the food we eat contains horse meat.
And returning to Australian politics now, and Katter's Australian Party candidate Bernard Gaynor says he won't be expelled from the party for comments he made about gay teachers. Mr Gaynor says the decision vindicates his belief that parents should have the right to decide who teaches their children. He says there's no room in a party opposed to gay marriage for candidates who support it. And to state politics now, and the Victorian Shadow Treasurer Tim Holding has denied Labor factional reps are behind his surprise resignation today. As Peter Carline reports, Mr Holding says he has no regrets about leaving public life. A former Water, Finance and Emergency Services Minister, Tim Holding, says he's considering possible charity work and won't return to politics. He says he has full confidence in the party leadership.
It's been an extremely united group. A collegiate group, a group with shared vision and a group that supports each other, and I wish them all the best.
Former Labor Premier Steve Bracks has paid tribute on Fairfax Radio to the 40-year-old.
I can understand, really, his desire to move on after 20 years. That would usually be what you do in the 40 to 60 age.
The resignation, effective immediately, will trigger a by-election in the seat of Lyndhurst. And to finance news now, and here on ABC News Radio and Radio Australia, a former mining executive has been sentenced to jail for using inside information to buy and sell shares. Finance reporter Sue Lannon.
Former Hanlong mining executive Calvin Zhu admitted he was a serial inside trader. He made profits for himself and his associates of more than $1.3 million using inside information relating to planned takeover bids. Justice Peter Hall in the New South Wales Supreme Court sentenced Mr Zhu to 2 years and 3 months in jail, and Mr Zhu must serve a minimum of 15 months. Mr Zhu cooperated with the corporate regulator, the Australian Securities and Investments Commission, after ASIC's market surveillance team noticed the suspicious trades. Mr Zhu's lawyer told the ABC that the judge recognised his client's remorse and contrition and passed the appropriate sentence.
To the markets, and the Australian share market finished flat today. The All Ords dropped 3 points to 5,056 at the close. The Nikkei closed the day down 1.2%, 11,174. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong finished flat, up 6 points to 23,417. The Singapore Straits Times closed down 0.25%, 3,281. The London FTSE down 0.5% at 6,316. At last check, the Australian dollar at 103.6 US cents, $1.21 New Zealand, 77 euro cents, 95 Japanese yen, and 66 Great British pence. Spot gold's at $1,632.20 US an ounce, and crude oil currently at $97.16 US a barrel. Well, let's get the latest here now on sport.